project team. I think it's Adam Borman who's going to be making those welcoming remarks. So Adam, please.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Odessa. Again, my name is Adam Borman. My title is the Chief of Capital Development with Baltimore City Rec and Parks. I'm a professional landscape architect by trade, and I just want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone on behalf of the agency and basically express our excitement about this project. Of course, the tanks project has been an unfortunate kind of addition to the park and a nuisance at times, but we see this as a tremendous opportunity to create something great out of this. And I think through this presentation and as we go through this process, you'll see that we have an incredible design team pulled together that's going to work closely with the community to reach an ultimately amazing project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Great, excellent. Thanks, Adam. Odessa, you were going to talk us through this slide. Do you want to do that?
Certainly. So first things first, just a housekeeping matter. We're recording this presentation, but that's mostly because our team, we've got several facilitators that are going to be helping us navigate this entire conversation. And so in order for us to take accurate notes, we're recording. So if anyone has a challenge with us recording, we will be happy to share the notes with you at a later time. But I wanted to make sure everyone was aware. You will see that at the top of the screen that the meeting is being recorded. Super excited to be here with you today. We're going to start with greetings and a team introduction, and then we're going to move from that right into the project overview. And that's really going to be about a 20-25 minute walking you through. The times are a little off, so don't let that bother you because we started at 6:30. But we're going to walk you through some history, some really important information regarding Druid Hill Park and the lake and what this project is all about. Then we're going to go into these breakout rooms, which is going to be super exciting and interactive. And we're hoping that that will help us get some ideas from you as members of the community about how you want to see, how you envision Druid Lake. So with that, after we do that, we're going to come back to the main room. We're just going to talk about next steps, and then we're going to close out. So the other housekeeping matter, if you have any questions, please do put that in the chat function, and we will go from there. Now, I am seeing that people cannot hear me. Can people hear me? Adam, I see you can hear me. Nick, I see you can hear me. I see a thumb. So I think people are hearing. We just want to make sure that everybody is able to hear.
Excuse me, Odessa. The thing is that they are on the pre-meeting link.
They're in the wrong place.
Okay. Yes.
Let's get them in the right location. That sounds great. Thank you. With that, Nick, go ahead and get started.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you all for being here. I'm Nick Lace, co-founder of Unknown Studio. You're going to hear from me tonight from our team, as well as my partner, Claire Augrey. We're super honored to be here and to introduce ourselves, share some of our initial background work on this incredible project, Druid Lake. Some of the perspectives we bring, we have been practicing landscape architecture across the country, and we bring a lot of national experience. Working on world-class projects around the country and somewhat internationally. We're proud to have started our studio about 3 years ago and to call Baltimore our home city. Our projects have kind of ranged far and wide. We pride ourselves at working at a wide variety of scales, and we're working on urban projects. We're working all the way out to rural projects, from regional down to the human scale. Public realm design, park design like this is one of the landscape projects we're most passionate about, which all of our other work really serves. So we'll share a couple examples of these towards the end of the presentation. We've got an incredible team here. These are local and national experts. We've got a wonderful client team. You've met Adam, And from our consultant,
Why is it advertising on the
really fantastic outreach team led by
Link to get to the location. So looks like we all need to open the chat.
MK Consulting Engineers is leading civil engineering and cost estimating. Tool on our team is leading the transportation and helping support us interface with Druid Park Lake Drive. Claire will touch on that in more detail. And then we have Biohabitats, whose Baltimore office here is supporting the team for ecological planning and water resource engineering, which we're really going to need for the lake. So incredible team. Is part of a larger, you all are part of a larger input for this project. The public open house and meetings, there's going to be 2 more. And then others are all involved in this project. We've got a community and advocates working group. So these are community organization and nonprofits who are working around. There's an interagency group. These are other agencies who need.
Nick, you're on mute. You're going off mute. I think you might need to re-click. And then I think that for some reason there are people in the wrong room. So give me about 1 minute. We've got them moving over. So
yeah, there's about 80 people in the wrong room now.
Yeah. Yep. We're bringing them over now. So give me about a few seconds. We're watching them. We're watching them come over now, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I've noticed some background noise too.
Yes. It's because everybody's trying to communicate in that room, so I'm muting all of that. So give me 1 moment, and I think we'll get the correct. We've got about 40 people coming across.
Okay.
Yeah, we all joined from the Eventbrite link, which brought us to a pre-meeting Teams meeting.
So I think we had 2 links, and that might be why. My apologies, but I think we've got it worked out. So give us 2 minutes, and people are getting this correct link now. And we're seeing them move. Yeah. And we are going to fix that link and get the correct one sent out to everyone. We'll get another Eventbrite sent out right now.
Thanks much.
No problem. So Nick, if you want to go ahead and keep going, and I'll keep bringing people over, okay?
Great. Yeah, so I was just explaining who has been involved in this project. We have about 5 different working groups, in addition to the public meetings that you're all participating in tonight, and hopefully will on the remaining 2. Got 5 different groups, ranging all the way to an executive, elected officials. I mean, we've had meetings with almost all these groups just ahead of this meeting, and as you can see, this is just a quick glimpse into our project schedule. We've broken it down into 5 phases. We're currently just into the 2nd phase, and
oops, sorry, buddy.
About 8 working group meetings, the 3 public meetings with you all. We've had many calls and conversations in between. So we're just really excited to finally be inviting the wider public in tonight for this first meeting. And you'll be welcomed back sometime in the summer, and then towards the end of the summer for a 2nd and 3rd public meeting. A little bit about our project. Loosely, our project boundaries are bounded by Swan Drive and Druid Park Lake Drive, as well as East Drive, the drives that basically wrap the lake today. We do have a special focus area. We're coordinating with the Druid Park Lake Drive team, who's working on redesigning that. There's also just an incredible complexity of other projects that are nearby that we're considering. Everything from the work that Rec and Parks is doing at Parkview to the Aquatic Center, which is under construction right now, the Tanks project. A lot of these projects Claire will get into more depth with as we get into it. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Claire.
Great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Claire Augrey, and I'm a co-founder of Unknown Studio along with Nick. I'm a Baltimore native. It's a great honor to be working on this, which is really our Central Park, and an incredible opportunity to reimagine something so cherished in Baltimore. Just to talk a little bit about what we're after today, this is, as Nick said, the first of 3 public meetings. We're not bringing you a design tonight. We're here tonight to hear from you, to understand what we've missed and to introduce a little bit of what we're thinking about in terms of the potential of the project so that we can get your brains on this with us. So, the next slide, Nick. Simply put, the opportunity of the Druid Lake project is a reimagined recreational Druid Lake. So as most of you probably know, this was a drinking reservoir. The potable water is now going into the tanks, which are under construction. And that leaves us all with the question of, well, what do we do with this incredible man-made body of water, which is sort of sits at the top of the city? You can go to the next slide. So that's an opportunity. There's 2 really incredible drivers that are really going to kind of help us understand, well, what do we do here? What's the identity of this thing? The first is access. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the history and some of the injustice that has been done in this area, which has severed access of neighborhoods to the park and neighborhoods to the lake and the city more broadly. And there's also a question of access onto the lake and into the lake. Currently, because it is a potable reservoir, you're not allowed to get onto the water or cross that fence. So all of that is open for reimagining. The second opportunity that we see here is really kind of an environmental one, which is, again, if we're not using this as drinking water anymore, this can be an incredible ecological amenity. It can provide habitat. It can provide educational value and incredible ecosystem services and benefits to the park and to the city. You can go to the next slide, Nick. So I'm going to start and go ever so quickly through a little bit of background about the project. We at Unknown Studio always start with history. It is just incredibly important to understand the site, the history, the culture, the place. You can go to the next slide. That tells us where we've come from and might inform where we're going. So the first thing I just want to make sure everyone is not only aware of, but incredibly proud of as Baltimoreans is that this is one of the preeminent and first major municipal parks in the United States. The parks movement in the United States really is something that's rooted here in the States, unlike Europe, where it was, great kingly estates sometimes became public landscapes. Here in the States, it was a progressive movement that was creating these large parks like Fairmount and Central Park, and Druid Hill was the third of those to create a magnificent central place for all of the citizens of Baltimore. And that's just something really incredible. So we are really in a top tier, renowned designed landscape here. Next slide. So then let's think back even further. So what we call Druid Park today, which is a little bit under 800 acres, is just crisscrossed with streams and creeks and springs. It's understood that this landscape would have been inhabited by the Susquehannock tribe and people 14,000 years ago because of the fresh water and access to those resources. So it's very likely always been a very inhabited nexus of people and culture above what is now the city of Baltimore. Next slide. So those creeks and springs are sort of the reason why people were always coming here. They're also an incredible asset and reason that the park was designed here. So if you know the site today, a lot of these have become invisible. They've been piped or culverted. Some of the springs have been closed for various reasons. And you see the lake on the southern side of the site. That was once a large ravine, which we'll see in a second. So the lake itself is completely artificial. There actually are no natural lakes in the state of Maryland. But what you see, which underlays it, is this incredible system of fresh water and creeks, which actually run all the way to the Jones Falls. Next slide. Over time, this site, like many large kind of landscapes peripheral to the city, became a large estate. It was given to George Buchanan. He owned about 600 of the almost 800 acres of what is now Druid Hill Park. It was a plantation. It depended on the labor of enslaved peoples. Some of the cemeteries of those people are still in the park. And over 3 generations of the Buchanan and then the Rogers family, it went from an actively worked plantation to more of a kind of genteel estates. Sheep were used to grade these kind of long meadows. The mansion house, which is now the zoo, was the residence. And over time, into the 19th century, that family eventually bequeathed the land to the city of Baltimore. Next slide. This is an incredible image. It's taking a minute to show up on my screen here. Just showing the original topography of the site. So you see that site, Future Druid Lake. It was a huge ravine running through what is the site of the future lake. So you just sort of can understand the transformation that happened in that part of the park. The other thing you see here is the canopy and how you have these fingers of the valleys going down to the Jones Falls. And so this is a landscape that's been constantly designed over time, culturally, as people come in and out of this site. It's been farmed, it's been hunted, it's been grazed, it's been engineered, and now here we are in the year 2021, thinking again about what's the next level of design and future of the lake itself. Next slide. One thing I just want to highlight, you know, we work on a lot of parks all over the country. They all have a different personality. They all have a different ecology. Druid Hill Park was named for the Scottish or Celtic Druids who actually worshipped trees. This is really a forest park. And if you use it often, as I'm sure many of you do, you understand and know that the trees are magnificent. It's a landscape which really lends itself because of its soils and its water to magnificent trees. And we want to continue thinking about that. How do we continue to steward that landscape and think of this as this forest park that's really overlooking the entire city? Next slide. So just to sort of fast forward to the kind of political origins of the park, Mayor Swan, whose Swan Drive is named for, as part of this progressive movement of park making, was part of the initiative to design and form the park in 1860. And you can see here lip service, but also I think a real intention to kind of make this a place for the equality of all, and a place which is really inviting all citizens of Baltimore into the park. And what you see here in this image is the Madison Gate, which is really was the edge and the kind of incredible gracious entry into the park. We know now it's been separated a little bit, and we'll talk more about that. The next slide. You see here, fast forwarding to 1870, this is the boat lake at the zoo. You may notice that there are no boats there now, but we just wanted to kind of highlight this as parks in the United States went from kind of more passive, kind of walking, strolling uses, and as we move into the modern era, recreation really comes on board. So the boat lake itself was used for boating, it was used for ice skating and fishing. Druid Lake never was, because it was always a potable reservoir, but we sort of see there's this sort of like romantic legacy of getting out there and recreating on the water. Next slide is one of my favorite drawings in the entire Baltimore archive. So this is showing what is called the Puddle Core Dam. If you were to take a cross section through that huge hill above I-83, this is what it's made of. So when the lake was built artificially, basically what's a clay dam wraps the entire lake on the eastern side. This is one of the most monumental and impressive and large-scale works of engineering in the 19th century, and it's still there today. So it's part of the Waterworks of Baltimore, which was one of the preeminent waterworks of the time. And if you go to the next slide, you can see then what goes on top. So it's not enough to just do this incredible civic work, it's a recreational amenity. So when the lake, which was originally Lake Chapman, now Druid Lake, first opened, you can see that it was a place for promenading, it was a place for carriage riding, bicycling, walkers, and the entire loop of the lake was open for those uses. Next slide. This is a view many of you might recognize. So today we have off ramps off of 83 and a field of daffodils. Well, just did. I-83 wasn't always there. This is a view of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, which was actually looking at how do we sort of contextualize and use the edges of the park. So some of these edges are really a focus of this project because we've lost the ability to use these edges and access the lake through the edges of the neighborhood and the context of the park. Next slide. Another really interesting change, and this has to do with the hydraulics and the head pressure connection to Lake Montebello, is that the lake was actually closer to the promenade originally. It was at 217, and the water level is now 8 feet lower. So when we think about not only the aesthetic change there, that the water is now kind of a little bit more of a crater within the lake promenade, it's also an access question. So if we want to think about, you know, this is something that needs to be tested with feasibility and engineering, but the water level used to be closer to the path itself, which is quite interesting. Next slide. The legacy of public transportation is really important. So there was a trolley tax, which helped fund the park and many improvements in the park. In 1943, this map, you can see how the trolleys came right to the Madison Avenue gate. Something that we're starting to talk about as part of this project is what does transportation look like to the park and maybe even within the park. So it is one of the only parks of its sort of size and character where you can just kind of drive in and park everywhere. And we want to start thinking about what does the future hold for Druid in that way. On the next slide, I'm sure many of you are just in love as we are with all of the incredible architecture. Many of these pavilions were actually designed as trolley stops and places to kind of get out of the weather and rest as you're waiting for the trolley to navigate through the park. Beautiful. So now just to talk a little bit, as the city grew and the neighborhoods grew to meet the park, these were just incredible addresses on the park: Reservoir Hill, Arkantrolley Terrace. These, stately homes were sitting on the edge of the park, facing the park. And if you go to the next slide, you just start to see how we have lots of different people crossing from the neighborhoods into the park, schools, kids, lots of different users. And what you start to see here too is a split in mobility and modalities. So we have carriages and walking trails starting to kind of be separated rather than that mix that we saw in the original image. Next slide. I think everybody is really aware of some of the darker chapters of our city's history. Although Baltimore did not have Jim Crow laws on the books, in reality, the park department really did implement these. And so we see some renowned architects like the Olmsted Brothers firm designing segregated playgrounds and segregated pools within the park. This is at the corner of the park now, where the actual office of Baltimore City Rec and Park sits. And you see here we have a pool for Black children and a pool for white children. Moving forward, we also know that because as things evolved over time and demographics changed, there was a major Jewish population living next to the park. We love these images. This is from Barry Levinson's film Avalon, just depicting how much Druid Lake was part of the life of Jewish life adjacent to the park. And then the next few images too, it's never been an exclusively white place. It's always been a place that's really used by all the denizens of our city, and it became a really important recreational location, recreational destination for the African American population of Baltimore. Here we see in the next slide too, lining up for bikes. We'll come back to bikes. The next slide, I just want to kind of flag a swimming kind of component of this. We can talk a little bit more about swimming in the lake and if that's possible, but just one thing that's really interesting in the history of the city of Baltimore and the history of the civil rights movement is how water education, swimming skills, swim education really overlaps with the civil rights movement itself. So on the left-hand image here, Elijah Cummings at 11 years old was part of the movement to integrate the pools in Baltimore. And it was a life and safety issue. It was also a civil rights issue, it was a public health issue. And we know that we have the legacy then of segregated pools. Trying to reintegrate those pools within Baltimore City's park system was a major forefront, one of the major forefronts of the civil rights movement nationwide. And then we just see in the center and then on the right, Joyce Scott's incredible artistic installation commemorating pool number 2, which was the African American pool in the park. The next slide, just talking about some other of the darker history of the city, was when we really started to kind of separate the park from its neighborhoods. And this was intentionally done. The powers that be, and it was just a few council members, really prioritized white suburban commuters, both across Druid Lake Drive and eventually I-83, despite fierce opposition, lobbying, suing, NAACP involved. And so this is just one of those key examples that we're hearing a lot about now, I think, in the news, in some of the new administration's initiatives of how transportation is really tainted by this racist intentional legacy to separate city dwellers from their resources, from their parks, in favor of commuters and vehicular traffic getting in and out. So that's something we see very clearly here. On the next slide, you see how Druid Lake Drive becomes a kind of a freeway, almost separating the neighborhoods from the park. And then on the right, I-83. Pictures of I-83 under construction. You can just see what a huge construction project this is, and how the on-ramps and the off-ramps and the spaghetti really started to impact that corner of the park. Our colleagues Tool Design put together the next slide in part of their review and recommendations for the Big Jump project. But what you see here is that the park used to have 18 gracious access points from the neighborhood into the park and around the lake. By 1964, because of this transportation planning, it goes down to just 5. So how can we restore some of that access? If you think about that 3-circle diagram I had, how access this place will thrive if we can get access into the park, to the lake, around the lake, possibly on the lake. So that's a segue then to talk about some of the other citywide initiatives that have to do with access and environment. We know this is a beloved local destination for those of you who live right close to the park, and that will continue to be so. It's also a regional and citywide destination. People come from all over the city, people come from all over the state and use Druid Hill Park. So we have to think about it on all levels. The next slide here just talks about the existing program. So of course, this is not a start from scratch blank slate. This is a completely beloved, active place full of people. In the middle of COVID, we see roller skaters, runners, joggers, people are using this park all the time. And so we want to make sure that we continue to we understand how it's being used and loved right now, and design into the future to make sure that we're continuing to have those uses and cherish those uses. Some of the other programs, which many of you are aware of, include the zoo, the aquatic center coming online, and others. I also wanted to sort of talk about what it means to recreate on the water. Again, this is not something that we need to invent in Baltimore. We have a million creative ways of recreating on the water. And so the question for this project is, what comes here to the lake? We've never gotten to recreate on the lake. So we've been able to run around it in the same way that we do at Montebello or along the harbor, but can we get on the lake? Can there be arts programs in the lake? Can there be boating? Can there be fishing? Can there be bird watching? Can there be life safety, swim skills, all of these things? Next slide. So we're just going to kind of prompt a few ideas about what that might be in the future, looking at other cities. So here are all some examples of other places. So thinking about projects such as here in Memphis, Tennessee, an awesome park project called Shelby Farms, where lakes are transformed into vibrant aquatic ecological bodies of water, great places for fishing, great places for kayaking, walking along. In the next slide, you see the importance also in this project in Austin, Texas, where we have swimming, we have kayaking, we have boating, but so importantly, it ties into a regional network. So if you go to Austin, Texas, one of the coolest things about all of these different places within Barton Springs and Zilker Park is that it's super easy to get there by stroller, by bike, running, jogging, walking, and it's all tied in to a really thoughtful network, which we'll come to here in a second. The next slide just talks about some maybe kind of personality sorts of programs, iconic boating. On the left, this is a real locals kind of tradition in Mexico City, where on the weekend you go out on these awesome barges and you have lunch and you have parties. On the right, more of a kind of locals and tourists kind of destination. This is in Oxford in the UK, where people can rent a boat and go out and spend their Saturday with a group of friends and just get out on the water. And then the last kind of iconic idea we just wanted to kind of throw out there is the idea of crossing the water. So maybe you're not a boat person, but you want to get out over the water. So can we bridge over it? Can we float over it? Are there boardwalks? Are there ways to kind of get out over the lake in a way that we don't today? So the next chapter I just want to go to briefly is about coming back to this, all of these different projects that are swirling around us and how we think about working with those for connectivity. So as Nick said, there's multiple different projects going on simultaneously to the lake projects, and we'll just run through a few of them. So many of you are probably aware of the Jones Falls trails. So this is 11 miles of greenway, and this threads its way through the park from the Jones Falls corridor up to Silburn. So that's something we definitely want to make sure we're weaving through the design for the lake. The next one, looking at some other trails initiatives, the Baltimore Greenway, kind of stitching the east-west part of the city together, connecting our parks to where we live through some of our historic corridors. Closer to home, the Big Jump, just an awesome, awesome project, really looking at how do we get accessible and inclusive connectivity for all different modalities across the JFX. And this is directly connected to the work of the Druid Park Lake Drive project, which is being led by another team, but coordinated together, and we're talking to them all the time. And this is where we're really going to begin to define, where are we crossing? How are we getting up to the lake? Is it at grade? How does it work with the traffic? So we're actively working on that. The next slide here, this is just sort of an analysis of what exists there today. So this is a slide looking at barriers. there's a lot of barriers to get to the park, whether that's a kind of busy vehicular corridor, a lack of a crosswalk, lack of a stopping light, or just fences. And so there's a good reason for some of these fences. So we were never allowed to get in the lake because it's a potable water source. We have tigers and elephants in the zoo, and they need to stay put where they are. But this sort of all adds up to a lot of fences and a lot of kind of like do not enter barriers within the park. So we want to really think about, especially around the lake, can we take that fence down? How do we do that safely? Where do we do that? Are there places that you can get out over the water and not have a guardrail everywhere? The tanks projects itself, we're a little bit behind them. So that project is going forward on its own timeline. And I'm sure many of you felt the impacts of that. But now that that is going full throttle, we want to think a little bit about how do we stitch it back into the experience of the lake. So if you go to the next slide, you just sort of see the landscape design for those tanks is basically putting a kind of lovely rolling green space on top of the tanks, but it doesn't yet think about how do we connect across the street and around the lake. So we're looking at are there any adjustments that we might recommend or ways that we think about how it ties into the future recreational amenity. It also has some fences and some walls and some things that we might question as we move forward about how we make a friendlier, more accessible place around the lake itself. And the next slide, this is a rendering, not our rendering, but a rendering for that project, which is the western shore of the lake. So what would go back once the tanks are in. I'm just going to move a little bit to some ecological conditions, existing conditions. If you remember that slide of the ravine that cut through, remember that and recall that. And then when we go to this slide, you see where all the dots are going across this corridor. That stream valley really does still exist. And that's pretty interesting. And then once you get to the lake side itself, it's pretty barren and devoid of kind of thriving ecosystems. So on the next slide, what you see, we see some non-native invasive species within the lake itself. We see a lot of kind of mown lawn and kind of like overgrown invasive woodland edges. So these are kind of important things to think about in terms of creating a thriving habitat and ecosystem if that emerges as a priority. And how do we rethink these different kinds of landscapes to be something more sustainable? The next slide, this kind of ties back to the kind of level of use that we see today. There's an awesomely high count on eBird and different kind of citizen science apps that just show all of the people who are really interested in observing and watching what's there today. If we can improve the stature of the habitat, I think it could even get better. We can just wonder what the future will bring with a more ecological approach. The water itself is chlorinated. It's our drinking water. It's wonderful drinking water. In the future, there's a question of, does it stay that way? Does it become dechlorinated? And could it become more ecological? Are there fish in there? Are there turtles in there? Does it have herbaceous wetland habitat? So this is a schematic that Biohabitats came up with today, which just talks schematically about how the lake works today, which is chlorinated drinking water. One of the proposals on the table, which is to dechlorinate it, but still kind of keep it as a sort of a bathtub of sorts. And then another idea which Biohabitats has brought, which is really, really interesting, which is start thinking about tying it back to some of the natural features. So the creeks and the springs and the stormwater, and start getting some living systems within the lake. Just this last slide, this just shows just kind of illustratively here what that could be. So whether it's floating wetlands or really coming up with improved ecological edges of the lake itself, that could all bring diversity and a lot of beauty to the lake itself. So I think, Nick, I'm going to hand it back over to you. You're going to talk, who's going to talk a little bit more about some models of other cities before we break out.
Great. Thanks for bearing with us. We just have a few more minutes here. We wanted to pivot to talk about a few examples from other cities. These are national examples of the kind of transformation that we know are possible for Druid Lake and for Druid Hill Park. Some of these projects we've been directly involved with. First one here, this is predates Claire and I, but is the Central Park in New York City. It's obviously one of the most famous parks in the world. Like Druid Hill, it was originally built in the mid-19th century. Like Druid Hill, it reached a point in the 70s and 80s where it really needed to be restored or renewed. In a time of really tight budget, New York City Parks didn't have the money to do this, to maintain it. So it started to transform with the formation of the Central Park Conservancy in 1980. The Conservancy has become a model for how to use fundraising and grant writing to raise a lot of money. I think that they've raised like $800 million to date through donations and memberships. But it also works to engage the public in a wide variety of ways. There's a lot of incredible programs that happen in Central Park. There's a lot of volunteering events. There's ways that the park, through the Conservancy, has built a lot of constituency. So, and through all this work, it's created a beloved, active, and well-maintained park that has grown together with its residents. So it's always an inspiring project to see. Another project that is also in New York City, and this is one that our team was involved with much more intimately, starting about 12 years ago. This is located in the New York Harbor, just south of Manhattan, on an old Coast Guard station. This was one of the last great public spaces in New York, a place that very few people had been at because it was a military base. There was a design competition. A firm who many of us, or several of us at Unknown Studio used to work for, won the project. And part of the successful proposal was really taking a high aspiration for this park. It was to be kind of on par with all the great parks of New York City, the other Olmsted parks of New York City. And one of the recipes for success here was really to think about how development fits within the park and around the park. So there were parcels, you can see them here shown in yellow, these future development sites that are now beginning to be inhabited by educational institutions and nonprofit institutions. The park really considered creating a wide diversity of spaces, places that have appealed to multi-generations. So where children, adults, grandparents can all find this kind of respite in the middle of the city, biking, just a really wide variety of spaces for different kinds of events. This was all formed through public input. Similarly, the Trust for Governor's Island is the entity which kind of is the governance agency who it's a nonprofit group who works with the park and has helped them not only bring in a lot of constituents, but has developed a variety of unique events and parties on this island that can really happen nowhere else except in this weird place in the middle of New York Harbor. And lastly, another park that we were involved with here in Lexington, Kentucky, this is called Town Branch Commons. This is a project that I served as landscape architect and project manager on. It's now in the middle of construction. It started with just some citizens with some bold ideas. The city used to be founded on a creek, and that had been buried for flood control in the 1930s. And it still lived on in folks' memories, and they wanted to basically bring some of that water presence back to their downtown. So they came up with this competition idea. The winning proposal really stitched this incredible ribbon 2.5 miles through the city. This is for bikes, pedestrians, there's water, green space, all weaving through a really complex city that had grown around it. The project didn't happen automatically, obviously. It required a lot of public support. It required a mayor who backed it. And it became really real when the project got a $15 million federal grant, and then other funding sort of mobilized to make it happen. It also involved another entity called the Town Branch Fund, who helped sort of more broadly serve the community park users. So coming back to Baltimore with some of this experience, it's inspiring to us to see what can happen in other cities. I think one of the important questions we want to ask you all tonight is, what can Druid Hill and what can Baltimore sort of show the world through this park? You know, we think Baltimore is such a unique place that we can do this right in a way that's uniquely Baltimorean, and it will address some of these complex issues, racial injustice issues, these infrastructure issues here with this fantastic park, which is just incredibly historic. Just a couple things. Druid Lake, reimagining Druid Lake, we have what we think the park is going to need. You know, it needs great design. We're going to try to provide that with your input. It needs public support. We have to come up with maintenance, which is feasible. We need an executive committee. So these are the politicians and locals to really sponsor this. And then we need capital. We need possible legislation. There's all these layers to the cake, but it really starts with you, with the design. And we think we've seen it happen in other cities, and through this we can make this an incredible place. Just one last thing, I think what we've realized in sort of our site analysis is that, you know, when you're in the business of public space making, you're always kind of balancing the economy, ecology, and equity. Through the lens that we've seen here, like, we really need to turn up the volume on equity. This is going to be one of the fundamental drivers for the project. And we're trying to develop a public engagement approach, which really tackles this, you know, through justice, social justice, environmental justice, diversity, and inclusion. So we thank you for tonight, for bearing with us to get through this introduction. We think this is an absolutely incredible place. And we want it to be a point of pride for the city, for the state. And with your help, we want to reach new constituents, especially those who may not be here tonight. So thanks so much. And we are going to hand it over to Odessa to guide us through the breakout room.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. And we've been having the most engaging conversations in the chat. I want to answer a couple of really quick questions because I saw some that I think are relevant. This is a vision plan. So we are really at the beginning of what the lake could look like. So just wanted to make sure I explained that. We don't yet have costs because we're in the start of the process, not towards the end. There are no designs in place already. We're really trying to bring everybody in at the beginning. Two, our sincere apologies. We were trying to be overly efficient and have a pre-meeting to test everything. It looks like we sent out 2 different links. So very appreciative of everyone who ended up in the first link, but we transferred everyone over to this meeting. And so we are recording this meeting, as we mentioned in the very beginning. So we will make available to anyone who was not able to actually get into the meeting in the beginning, the presentation, so that you can see a link of what Nick discussed in the beginning. The last piece of housekeeping is there are 1 or 2 individuals who are having trouble seeing the actual PowerPoint. So we'll also make that available as a PDF and send that to you as an email. So you should have received these first set of links, and we'll be able to send all of that to everyone who is registered. So that should allow everybody to get access to things. We have had 1 solid hand raise for this entire time. So I'm going to get to that question, but before I do that, we want to really go into a breakout discussion. So I'm hopeful that, Jim, you can post your question in the comment section, and hopefully we can answer it there, because otherwise it will become a little bit more difficult to manage with a lot of questions. We have over 150 people here tonight, so I'm super excited about that. So really quickly, let me just explain the breakout sessions. I saw a lot of comments that people were making that were indicating, oh, I hope you'll keep this, or I hope you'll keep that. That is exactly what we're about to talk about in these breakout sessions. They're randomized. So we have 7 facilitators on our team. All of our facilitators, if you can just come on camera for a moment, will have the background that you see behind me. So you'll be going into a room with one of those facilitators, and they will then walk you through a series of exercises. For the sake of everyone understanding what's happening, we are going to be using an external tool. So if you're on a computer, we're going to talk to the people who are on a computer first. If you're on a computer, we're about to, we will move you into the breakout rooms. You'll see the facilitator. That facilitator is going to place a link to get you to the online tool, which is called Mural. Like you paint a mural on a wall. It's going to take you to that link. When you get into that link, you're going to be able to actively engage and provide feedback. Last but not least, the people who are on the phone, so you're only hearing and you're not able to see any of the visuals, we are going to tell you the link to a SurveyMonkey, which will allow you to at least see the visuals on a smartphone. So if there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we are going to go ahead and start moving people into the breakout rooms. Malcolm, are you ready for that now?
Yes, Odessa, we are ready.
All right, excellent. So hopefully everyone will stay around and be able to provide some feedback to our facilitators. I did not see, but did Jim ever post his question in the chat? So I didn't see that it is. So we'll go ahead and go into the breakouts. Thank you, Malcolm. And it will be a few minutes. It's going to feel like it's taking a long time. So it'll be a few seconds, and then all of a sudden you'll appear in another room. Wonderful. Okay, so now that you are in this room, I am going to bring everybody up so that everyone will be able to talk. So that's the most important piece of this. So we're going to unmute everyone, and I hope we're going to unmute everyone. Oh, if you're on a phone, you should press star, oh shoot, is it star 7? You should press star 7 and you should be able to talk. I believe that's the correct thing. But so that I am slowly but surely allowing you guys access to.
Hey, it's star 6.
Star 6?
Yep, star 6.
All right, wonderful. Star 6, if you're on the phone, star 6, and you should be able to verbally participate. All right. So in this room, I have quite a few folks that are on the phone. So bear with me just one more minute, but very excited to see you guys have stuck around. And so just bear with me for a few moments and we'll get started on this conversation. All right. It's a lot of people. So all of the, can people unmute themselves? Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes.
Yay, oh, okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love it when things work. I'm so sorry about that link. I'm so bummed out about this. All right, so we are going to use a tool called Mural. And Mural is really going to allow us to provide feedback on a number of different things. So the very first thing I am going to do, I'm going to share my screen, but before I share my screen, I'm going to share a link with you all to get to Mural, okay? So hopefully everyone's able to get in the chat. The people on the phone, if you want to, I don't know if you're calling in, are you able to see, do I need to send you the SurveyMonkey? So if one or two people want to reply back to me, that would be helpful. I'm going to tell you how to get to the SurveyMonkey is what I really need to say. All right, so you guys should see a link in the chat. if you click on that link, it's going to take you to the mural board. And just bear with us because we've got a good number of people here and want to make sure that everybody is able to access mural. Oh, I see people showing up. That's great.
Odessa?
Yes.
I don't have access to the chat at all. It's not on the bar.
Are you using, let me ask you, have you updated Teams of late or are you on the browser?
I have not updated lately.
Yeah, so no, not a problem. I think that can be why you're having a challenge. Can you try accessing through the browser? Malcolm, any help?
1 second. It seems like room 3, where Patrick Smith is the facilitator, was having some issues. So there are some folks here who are going to leave again and get sent into that room. We're going to try it again. So just bear with us for a moment here. Apologies.
Yeah, no problem. So Aaron, I'm going to tell you how to get to, you can't see it at all, correct?
No, not at all.
I love when that happens. It's how you know that the world is working. You don't see the link at all. Okay, I am going to, just really quickly, I'm going to create let me think about that. I'm trying to figure out how to create something quick for you that you'll be able to, I really need to make a short link. So I don't know how to do that. Bear with me for one moment while I think that through. Jenny, are you able to get back in the chat? Aaron, I feel like I have your email address, so I'm going to email it to you from your registration. Does that work?
Odessa, I actually got it. So I switched to my browser.
Oh, yay. Okay, great. All right, so I want everyone to get a chance to get started. So I'm going to bring everybody into the very first activity and let you guys kind of work through it. The very first activity, what we want to be able to tell is the people who are in this particular room, which neighborhood are you here from? So over to the left, oh, I forgot to share my screen. Ha, ha, ha. Sometimes it's the easiest parts. Let me know when you see my screen. Just a thumbs up for the people I can see. Can you see my screen? And you can see all the people wandering around. All right, so what I'm gonna do over here to the left, you see this star that looks like an icon. You should see that in your browser. Just want everybody to see what that is. I want you to click on that, choose this check mark, and put a check mark wherever it is that you live. Okay, and you should be able to do it now. Does everybody think everybody's good? I see check marks going all over the place.
Odessa, do you mind putting the link in the chat again?
I certainly do not. I will do that again for certain.
Thank you.
And you're in Union Square. I think David McGill was having trouble.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yeah.
Oopsies. Now, I will tell you, I know where Liberty Square is. Where is Union Square? Oh, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam. Really helpful.
I'm sorry about that, Odessa. I'm trying to navigate multiple things here. Union Square, I guess it technically it's in Southwest Baltimore. It's by I'm on West Lombard, so
Okay, got it.
on the west side, west of downtown. Yeah.
All right. I know we have about 16 people in this room, so I definitely see, and maybe half are on the phone. So for the people on the phone, if you're interested in seeing this using SurveyMonkey, I will tell you the SurveyMonkey link. If you give me 1 second. It is. I sent it out a little while ago. Sometimes you're doing 20 things at once. So the shortcut to the SurveyMonkey link, if you are interested in doing that, would be surveymonkey.com. Oh, I'm going to put it here too, but I'm going to say it. surveymonkey.com/r/D as in Druid, L as in Lake, V as in Vision, P as in Plan, -activities survey. So that is surveymonkey.com //DLVP-activities-survey. So for anybody who wants to be able to still follow along. And additionally, so I'm first, I see Craig, I see that you're joined on the computer. I first giving you the SurveyMonkey link, and then I'm going to go back and give you the link to the mural. All right, excellent. Okay, so I'm glad I saw lots of check marks. I see a couple people in the lake with me, in the park with me. But I want us to move along a little bit because I want to kind of walk everyone through what has been happening so far. We had a lot of participation. A lot of people indicated registered for this event. We had actually over 200 people registered, and we still had over 150 in the meeting, which is still enormous turnout. These are the organizations that RSVP'd for tonight's event. Can everybody see who RSVP'd? Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
If you know of any organizations or communities that we missed, so I'm going to leave this up for a moment, let everybody get a chance to take a look. But then we're going to ask you to let us know what organizations we might have missed. And I'm just so you guys can walk through it, you can use the sticky note over to the left. It looks just like a Post-it note. Click on that or double click. And that'll let you say, are we missing someone? Or is something spelled awfully wrong that we didn't notice? And I'm going to ask you to put that down here, anywhere up in this earlier space, but just want everybody to have an opportunity to say what's missing. So if you look at that sticky note over to the left, then you'll be able to drag a sticky note down and type. Parks and People Foundation. Okay, great. And we did have some people who registered that that at some point we were not. We had to kind of stop this list at some point. So that might be a little bit of what you see here. And for any reason you're having any challenges using the mural board, you can go ahead and speak up and I'll make sure I type anything. So if there's something you're missing, just go ahead and say it verbally and I'd be happy to put that in.
Odessa, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was trying to get, I didn't get it in. Wyman Park Community Association.
Okay. Great. And are you from Wyman Park Community Association or are you saying they're missing?
Well, my husband is the president. He's not on the call, but he was on the call earlier.
Okay. Not a problem. One of the things that we're doing with our engagement is we're going to look at everyone who registered, see where they came from, and then try our best. That's so cute. I'm so easily distracted by children and animals. So either one of those will get my attention. So one of the things we want to do is make sure we've invited everyone who should be involved in part of the conversation. All right. So just to make sure we don't run out of time, there's a lot of really cool stuff that we have ahead of us. I am going to go ahead and move forward to the next activity. And we'll still allow you. So what we're going to want here is for people to use those same sticky notes that are off to the left. And or you can also double click to create a sticky note. Okay, I see Park Heights and Park Circle and Park Heights Renaissance. So I'll make sure that those end up on the board. But we want you here to write any memories you have of the lake. This project is really focused on the lake more than on the park itself. And so I want to make sure that we're providing feedback that way. But I've now released everyone, so you can put some sticky notes in this section and let us know what you remember, your thoughts of the lake. So I saw Park Heights, Park Circle, and I saw Park Heights Renaissance. And David McGill, I completely agree. We're going to put anybody who uses Druid Hill Park, and I would say that Druid Hill Park is Baltimore's park. So there's no community that I would say is too far to be involved in this conversation. We just have to try our best to focus. That's just because there's a limit to how we do the engagement. So the one great thing about doing virtual engagement is it makes the city open to everyone. Okay, creative city, public. And don't you guys worry about having to move anything around. Our team's going to manage to do that after this. So it's a lot of engagement, a lot of people. Awesome. Excellent. Picnics with the wife and children. So the part that I love most is being able to go back. Oh, the potential unlocked. That's awesome. Age 6, the first scar. I remember one of my first scars. Those are always the best. You remember the story and you really look at that scar and you remember whether that was your smartest moment or not. 4th of July fireworks from the Moore Tower sledding down hills. Uh-oh, that's disappearing. Drumming with Dad's creative nomads. Watching fireworks. Doing pull-ups while getting pointers from strong people. That is great. Walking and biking around the lake. I love running, and that's always great. Looking at cool birds. I really love the potential unlocked with holding AFRAM in the park, including the art walk. That is like legacy, beautiful moments. Biking, walking, and somebody was making out next to the Morai Tower. So I just saw it, and I just am reading what I see, folks. But not everybody has memories, but we are going to ask you what your vision is. So we're starting with stories, and I'll talk about this a little more as we're wrapping up. But part of the reason we're starting with stories is because the best way to create a vision is to remember the past. So you start in the past, and then you walk into the future, and you're able to do that. So these are awesome. You guys are putting some great thoughts down here. Creative minds and house music. Hello. That's Baltimore House, can't beat it. All right. Just so that, like I said, I want to make sure. So we've got a couple of activities here and want to make sure we don't lose ourselves in time. So I am going to go ahead and move us to the next activity. And feel free, if you guys have anything that you wanted to shout out, feel free to let me know if there's anything else. So our next activity is really centered around what the lake is like now, how you currently use it, if you currently use it. And then we're going to have a preference survey where we're going to ask people to provide their preferences on things that they'd like to see in the future. So we're going to start with how you're using the lake now. And again, you can use sticky notes, you can use text, you can use a comment box, but just go ahead in this section right here and let us know, how are you using the lake now? Don't forget, you can double click and it'll create a post-it note. People are cycling, people are walking. Walking, biking, and skating.
Odessa, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is focused on the lake, right?
It
Not the whole park. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Okay, I see that Anne, you joined a little late, so I'm going to give you a link to the mural board. It's going to open up. It's going to open up in another link on your computer, and then you'll be able to do all of this stuff. So we're going to be excited about that. Oh, I love this memory, rescuing a floating sculpture with the artist. A storm disconnected the anchor line. That is a great memory. Biking, jogging, rollerblading. Do people rollerblade? I feel like the roller skate has come back. I feel like the roller skate came back, like the original four wheels. I see people using roller skates since the pandemic. More people doing that, which I love. If I saw something that was in the chat, I am bringing it from the chat over into the board for anyone who's interested. Jim, are you the same Jim that had your silent hand up for so long? Yes. Well, go ahead and ask your question. Oh, you're on mute. You had such a quiet hand. That's what I tell my niece and nephew. If you have a quiet hand, people will get you for sure. All right. All right. So I love these. I love kind of how you're using it now. Serene place to walk and ride. Looking at tree blossoms. Ooh, metal detectoring. That's interesting. I now see you, Anne. You've made it into the board, so I see that you're here now. Collecting cypress balls. That is kind of a cool thing to be doing. Little adventures with the kids. That's always something we want to, we cherish those. Those are going to turn into memories later, so much appreciate those. Okay, so slowly but surely we are making our way through this mural board. So I am going to now, we're going to do a little preference survey. And I am going to ask everyone, I'm going to give you guys a moment. Everybody should be able to see the preference survey with images. Yes? All right. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a voting session. Everyone's going to get 3 votes. Okay? So give me kind of the top 3. And then I'm still going to give you space like we've done in every other section. If I totally missed the mark, I'm going to give you space to say there are some more things I would like to see here. Okay? So first, this is how would you like to see it being used in the future? We're going to also talk about features. We're also going to talk about programming. This is our chance to say specifically how you would like to see the area being used. Okay? So I'm going to start a polling session. Everyone's going to only get 3 votes just so that we can keep ourselves controlled here. And then we're going to let you guys start voting. So I have 19 people here able to vote. If you're on the phone, I can jot down your preferences if you'd like. And so it also, if you're on the phone, the SurveyMonkey link that I provided will allow you to do this exact same activity on your mobile device. I do see your comments about voting in outdoor festivals. So I see that. Are you guys able to vote? Because I see some people, but I don't see the. Oh, did I tell you how to vote? Just click on the images. If you click on the images, you should be able to vote. I probably didn't tell you that really important thing. So there's still a few folks here that have not started voting. So I'm going to give you guys a little time to start. But vote on these top 3, but we'll still give you space to add additional. So don't worry, you'll still have time to add additional as well.
Odessa, do you have to release us first?
Oh, did I not release you? Lord Odessa. That could be, I was like, why aren't they voting? What's happening? Yep, I do. So I probably have to end and then let you do this again. Yep. So I'm gonna let you guys vote again and we'll do this again. Yeah, so now you should be released and let's try this again. Future use of lake OP. So that way I'll remember that that's what I did wrong. And now try it. So you might have to vote again, but now everybody, thank you, Brian. I think you were the one who, yeah. Today's one of those days. I think I've been busy all day. Oh yeah, now I see everybody voting. So thank you so much. Just click on, now if you click on a place twice and only meant to click on it once, click on it again and it'll take off a vote. So if you double click in a place, you'll be able to remove it and put it somewhere else if you'd like. Excellent. Most of you guys are done voting. We have a few folks who haven't started. But I'm trying to give everybody time. So I do see in the chat that voting is something people are interested in, outdoor festivals, outdoor exercise and play spaces, biking, and Jill, picnic, play space, exercise. Got it. Picnic, play space, Outdoor exercise. Great. All right. Just so we can stay on time, because I don't want you guys to miss out on anything. This is so much fun. I'll let you guys get another couple seconds. And then David, I did see you said as well, outdoor exercise, play spaces, and biking. Great. All right, just to, for the benefit of the time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the voting session, and we will get a moment to kind of look and see what the thoughts of the group were. So, all right. So a lot of people want to see food and beverage. I'm going to want to talk about that in a little bit. Also, places for gathering and picnicking. Lake swimming seems to be something of interest. Not so surprised about play spaces, biking, and fishing, because I swear everywhere I go and there's water in Baltimore, I see people with a fishing rod. So additionally, outdoor exercise, skating, and organized run events were some of the others. So just for everyone, as you're coming out, you're going to need to X out here in the top right corner in order to get to the next exercise. But if you look, you're able to really see how people have voted, which is also super interesting. Like I asked you before, I'm going to continue to ask. So tell us what we missed. So in this area, I definitely saw outdoor festivals. So I'm going to, Gloria Cooper Blue, I am going to type what you have here just to make sure I don't miss it, okay? Okay. All right. Really excellent. Any other activities that you would want to see? In this area right here. Ooh, jazz festival. Totally in for that. Oh, hammocks in a wooded recreation space. Love that. Club music. Hip hop. Awesome. Oh, so okay, highlighting Baltimore artists. Got it. Voting, for sure, for sure. And just whoever wrote voting, I'm just out of curiosity, is that paddle boating, or is that sailboat, or I'm just curious what kind of, there you go, kayaking, thank you. It's always good to have as much specificity as I can get. Kayaking, that's awesome. Ooh, rope swing, in for that. I am 100%, I'm 100% in for a rope swing. I think that would be so much fun. Oh, weekend road closers for recreation, a beach, canoes, colorful gardens. Well, it looks like you guys want to see a lot here. That's kind of exciting. Historic tours. Boardwalk over the water. I love that. Oh, bird watching stands. I can get behind that. Silent garden. That's awesome. Any other thoughts? Ooh, I love that. Site of a future Olympic water event. Hello. Who doesn't want that? That goes in a round post-it, in my opinion. I have done a lot of races and bike rides. So to me, an open water swim for a triathlon, I don't see anybody writing it, but I'm giving you guys ideas in case anyone else wants to make Odessa happy. Open water swim for triathlon would be perfect. I don't want to have to travel all the way to like Northern Virginia to do a triathlon. Yeah, if you could swim and we could do it. They do it in, Columbia. You have to go to Columbia right now. And even they've closed their lake for, I think they were doing it at Centennial Lake. So I was about to do that right before the pandemic hit. I was training for a triathlon, so I'm looking for places to make it easier and convenient. A kite festival, excellent. All right, guys, I am going to go ahead and get us moving to our next area. And so we've talked about activities at the lake. 9, I should get 10. So let's talk about future programming at the lake. So programming, I mentioned a little bit ago, is a little bit different. We're going to start, this time I'm going to remember, Brian, to release everybody before we vote. But we're going to start with some of these activities. So I kind of saw when you guys were writing voting, I knew it was going to be showing up. But we're going to do another poll. And we're going to ask you again, give everybody 3 choices. And so bear with me for 1 second. And I will start a new poll session. And right here, you should be able to begin voting now. Just same activity, 3 choices every person. I see that 18 people are voting. So future programming, and we're just kind of separating, it's slightly nuanced, but programming is kind of what we would want Rec and Parks to be putting into the lake or putting into the activity versus the things that you could do kind of your own, at your own leisure, at your own time. So that's a little bit what the difference is with programming versus activity. I think, Brian, that little person should get a vote.
Let's be very clear. I'm voting on behalf of this little person. So anything kid related, trust me, this person has a say in that.
I just said, I mean, every time you see the little face showing up, like, I hope you're choosing, playgrounds and awesome. All right. I'm going to give another minute or 2 for you guys to continue voting. And our goal is to be back. I'm going to double check on what time we're supposed to be back. All right, see a few more votes left. I don't know if anybody else wanted to vote, but I'm going to go ahead just so that we can keep moving along. Actually, we only have 1 activity left, so I'll give you guys a moment. I'm double checking because we're either supposed to be back at 8 or 8:15. Oh, but some people are finishing up, so let me speed up to make sure we get through. And I don't want you guys to lose any of the time. All right, so let's go ahead and end this voting session and we'll just show. So great, so this kind of aligns with what people started typing earlier, that people wanted to see voting, they wanted to see environmental education. I think that's awesome. I think I'm an environmental engineer, right? So I'm gonna think that's a brilliant idea. Culture and history programming I think is great. We saw rowing and fishing skills and cultural performances and play spaces. So that is, programming in playtime for kids is the way that I envision that. And then wanted to see other activities around. So excellent. And I'm just going to give you guys another minute to say if we missed anything. So go ahead down in this area. And if we missed anything, go ahead and put it in there. Okay, gotcha, David. Baltimore Fair. Ooh, that would be cool. And if you're having any challenge, go ahead and put it in the chat, in the meeting chat, because I will happily take it right out of that meeting chat for you and place it for your use. Fruit trees. Hello. That got big. Ooh, drum circles. Bike party. Love that. I already want to do the Baltimore bike party. I miss it. Zip lining across the J of X. Now, I am going to say I'm probably not going to go with you on that one, but it would be cool to see someone do it. Summer camp. Excellent. Definitely summer camp. Job training. I would love to know more about that job training. I think it would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. That Thomas Kuja. I don't know. I know just people, thinking about the intersection between economic development and equipping workforces to do park-related stuff locally and nationally, I think is important.
Yeah. No. So I will say that economic development and job training to teach people to do the types of work that you would do in a park, right? That really aligns to me. You want to teach people, ecological skills or environmental skills, teach people how to identify plants, teach them how not to pollute. Those are all super important. So I love any job training. Living bridge across Druid Park Lake Drive. Huh. Okay. All right. So just to make sure we don't lose the last activity, I'm going to go ahead and bring us together. We're going to do this last two. And then we'll join the rest of the pack. So last piece is we're going to do one more poll. And it's this one instead is elements or features are important to have for you. So that's where it's the art, the sculptures, the benches. I am going to start one more voting session. And I'll give everybody 3 votes, just like we've done, and you should be able to vote. So let me know elements or features. So like fishing piers or shade trees. Obviously the pavilions we've already seen are wonderful. Should there be more? Something right there at the lake. Water activities. Oh, I love Tai Chi. I missed that one, but I'm gonna get that one in there. So see some of you starting to vote.
Hi, Odessa. So in a couple of minutes, we'll have folks returning to the main room. So I'm just going to go out and let everyone know.
Okay, thank you so much. We're closing up the number 14 and we're going to go to number 15 and we'll be ready. All right. Okay, so just because he said he's going to pull us out of here, we saw a lot of people wanting shade trees. That's wonderful. Water activities, food and beverage, we saw that a little earlier. Play spaces, sculptures and art, and ecological planting and fishing piers. So again, water activities, sculpture, art pavilions. Got it. So finally, last but absolutely not least, once again, what did we miss? Please use Post-its and let me know what we missed. Ooh, muscle car is doing 50. Ooh, not fun. And I did say I was going to put Tai Chi. I saw that earlier. So we've got about probably a little less than a minute left, and then we're all going to slowly but surely start to see other people coming back into this room. So this was the original main room. People didn't actually leave from this room and go anywhere. They've been staying here the whole time, but we'll be seeing other people start to arrive back in this main room as we close out this activity. So, so appreciative of everybody for sticking around. Participating actively. Ping pong. Oh, outdoor ping pong would be cool. Thank you so much. Oh, who said it? Free circulator connecting Mondawmin and Druid Hill Park. Love it. I put that nice up there right on the top. Don't you worry, I won't miss it. Natural playgrounds. Absolutely. More epic overlooks. Excellent. Skywalks connecting neighborhoods. No more parking lots. So tell us what we don't need. I appreciate that just as much as telling us what we do. Meditation space. Excellent. All right. So like I said, we're slowly but surely going to start to see people coming back to this room from some of the other rooms. So we can anticipate that starting to happen in the next few moments. But thank you all for your active participation. And we will be, everything here has been saved. So that's the great part. And when people start coming back into the room, are there any other things that anyone wants to say? I am leaving the mural board open, so you'll be able to continue to pop some thoughts in as you wish. But if there's anything else that anyone wants to say, let me know. Features that will draw tourists, major artist installations, sculptures. Awesome.
Hi, Odessa. All right, we're going to start bringing everyone back.
I know, I've already given fair warning.
Okay, great.
Yep. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I think Nick has a couple more slides. When he gets in, he'll have more slides to add. All righty. Oh, it's amazing when they start coming back in. It's like, welcome back, everyone. Glad to see so many of you have remained with us, and hopefully you guys were able to successfully participate in the activities and provide some feedback. I'm going to wait patiently till I see Nick showing back up because I don't see him yet. Yep, Nick, I see you here, Nick.
I'm here.
Great. Did you want to share your screen with the last few items?
Yes. Thanks for reminding me here.
Don't you worry. That's what I'm here for. All right. I think, Nick, pretty much everyone who is left is back. So I think you can go ahead. I think I see all of our facilitators back. So I think we're good to go.
Great.
Oh, this is my slide or is this yours?
This is your slide. Yeah, if you'd like to do it. You wrote it.
Okay. So I want to thank everyone, first of all, for participating so actively. We had so many participation. And Nick, I might need you to mute, honey. We had such great participation. In my room, I could hear in my office where other people are facilitating that there was good participation in some of the other rooms as well. We're going to use the information that you've given us to start to pull together some of the information we needed. So one of the things we asked you when you registered is what neighborhood you live in. We want to make sure that not only we know who was registered to participate, but that we are doing outreach and engagement to some of the other communities. So that was kind of that first question. So that we can make sure that every community that should have a voice does have a voice. So we will do some additional engagement with areas that are just to get adjacent to the lake that may not have had representation. So that's our very first activity. The stories, telling us your memories, telling us how you currently use the lake. That's going to be how we're going to develop a vision and identity for the future of the lake. And it really is coming from your voices, and we'll be pulling that together. When we have our next engagement, that is when you'll start to see some of our rough thoughts around that. In several different places on that activity, you indicated your preferences, things that you thought should be here, things that we didn't think of that you thought should be here. So we're going to integrate that information into these vision and design components so that when we're meeting with you again, you'll start to see this taking shape and including you. And then most importantly, I think good engagement requires us sharing feedback with you. That confirms our understanding, and then we can make adjustments as needed or wherever practicable so that ultimately the end result is a Druid Lake that meets the needs of the community and everybody is excited and proud of that. I think you're the next slide, Nick. Awesome.
Okay. Just want to say we hope to see you again. Our next meeting will be in the summer. We've got another one towards the end of the summer. So we will expect at that time we'll be able to share, as Odessa was saying, we'll be able to show you kind of how we use the information from this meeting and kind of represent it to you in ways that hopefully will be clear, sort of where the different voices in the community were. So really thank everyone so much for sticking it out here on a Wednesday night. I personally was just really excited to be in this group and kind of see people's ideas and all of their connections to this incredible space. So, on behalf of our whole team, thank you so much. And we will be back in touch shortly as we get that next on the books. And Odessa, did you want to say anything about surveys or any of the other tools we have?
Yes, so we know everybody couldn't make this meeting this evening. And so I had earlier pasted in our chat, and of course now I got to figure out where I found it the last time. Elsa, are you available to paste in this chat the Survey Monkey?
Yes.
Excellent. So we're going to paste in the chat a Survey Monkey link. If you have somebody you know who would have loved to be here that didn't make it here, we're going to ask that you forward this link to them, and that will allow you to us to get more feedback. We're going to always ask the same questions. What neighborhood are you from? And all of the same information. And that just makes sure that we're engaging the city, that we're doing a good job. Nick talked a lot about the history of this park in the early parts of this discussion. Nick and Claire both did. And for me, it is really important that we right some of the wrongs of history, but that we make new memories and we make a new path forward for Druid Lake. And the only way we can do that is with all of your help. So thank you so very much for sticking with us. We're going to give you 15 minutes back of your life. It's too dark for me to go for a walk. I usually go for walks at the end of meetings, but hopefully you got to enjoy the weather. It's a little bit of rain, but April showers, May flowers, it's all great. And thank you so much. Yes, Graham, we did see your note. We'll make sure that we continue to provide flyers. So one of the things we offered was to community leaders, we'll provide flyers if you can help us out with distributing them. Thank you so very much for your participation. There's the QR code. We will also, to the event registrants, we will send you this link to the Survey Monkey. So have a wonderful evening, everyone, and thank you so very much.